And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and I thank you so much for joining us. I'm winding up, am I not? I'm getting charged up here because we're going to talk about something that quite honestly afflicts, that's one way to put it, affects, definitely is an issue with many of us, myself included, believe it or not, after a couple of previous interviews where my guests have basically given me some advice behind the scenes and said, this is the reason why you aren't where you want to be. And this is the reason why you need to make a shift. You need to make a mind shift. Well, we're going to talk about that with our very special guest here on the program. Oh, what about the preliminaries? Oh, piddle paddle. I'll give you that information. Excuse me, a little later on in the program as I clear my throat. My very special guest is a number one, top 1% of loan officers in the country with over 18 years invested in the mortgage industry in particular. Now, we probably won't get into the whole mortgage thing. She's a top woman originator and was number one for FHA lending in Illinois in particular. And of course, she's coming to us all the way from snowy Chicago as we're speaking. We are, by the way, I usually don't give dates on these programs, but I'm still trying to figure out where July went, and we're already at November, and she's got snow on the ground. Her name is Jennifer Hernandez, and it's the website is iamjenhernandez.com. I'll spell all that out later. Jennifer, thank you so much for taking time out of lending people money to join us and talk about the subject of your book, which is No One Can Stop Me, but that locomotive. No, wait a minute. Actually, it kind of can be considered a locomotive, but me. No one can stop me but me. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
This is something that this is a big issue for a lot of people because it's like, how is it that I'm in my way? I'm doing all of these things and I'm this, that, and the other thing. You know, they continue to make these statements but it's me. How am I getting in my way? So I guess we'll start there with that question. How, and I'll make it personal. How am I getting in my own way?
Well, what's the story that you tell yourself? And what you're looking for in life is that how you treat yourself. Because, right, we can't look for more than what we're willing to give ourselves. But I think that is the main issue, is that we're looking for love, right, from another, but yet we're not really loving ourselves. How are you going to call in something into your life that you're not even capable of doing yet?
And I guess one of the important places to start in that regard is to, again, you have to define those things that you're talking about. Would we define it? Could we use this particular phrase, my life's purpose, or is it deeper than that? It's something more, I don't know, focused, if you will, something like that, because it seems like my life's purpose can be rather large sometimes.
Yeah, I think it is deeper than that because, a lot of us may know what our purpose is, right? But the only way we truly get there is when we remove all of our blockers and allow ourselves to be great. And what we try to look for within another, we are actually able to provide our own self. And I know I've had this challenge, and honestly, 2023 was like, this is the first year that I can honestly say that I'm desperately trying to love myself and put myself first and what I need in life, without like sacrificing my morals and who I am or who I want to be for another. And I think just as a mom, it just comes so naturally for us to do that because we're doing that for our children constantly, and
Yeah.
we can't.
And you used an interesting phrase, so we don't sacrifice different elements, if you will. My parents, who I had the great privilege of interviewing back in 2015 on this program, it, by the way, is now available, folks. If you want to go to SoundCloud or any of the other locations, you can find it. My mother finally gave me permission after my father's passing this year. And one of the things that I asked them was, what did you sacrifice to have a large family? Because when I share with people about my family, I've got a brother and 4 sisters. Now it's down to 3. I grew up in a household of 8 in a house that couldn't have been more than, 1,400 square feet, maybe 16, 3 bedrooms. And there were 4 girls, mind you, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. Okay. And my mother and father agreed on this, and they stated, we didn't sacrifice anything because that's what we wanted. We wanted a big family. All right. So whatever name you want to put to what you want, is it really a sacrifice if what you want, and again, as you kind of stated, and I thought that was real appropriate that you stated it, as long as it doesn't violate my morals, my values, et cetera, you know what? If I have to sacrifice this relationship or this job, maybe I have to move in order to make this happen. Maybe I have to change my lifestyle. I'm going to live in a tiny house. I'm going to find a cave on the side of a mountain. Again, all of those things. Is it really a sacrifice, or is it a level of intention and commitment to self? And that's really sounds like what you're talking about here is we have to be committed to self first, regardless of our beliefs and so forth, before we're really any good to anybody else.
Right. So if you think about it, because I've noticed this in relationships and jobs, we stay too long until we're actually like forced out, like what am I mean by force? Like you can't even physically take it anymore because now you're endangering your health and everything else because you've stayed so long, and that's what I think I mean by that is exactly what you said, it's honoring oneself. And a lot of times like our, environments or relationships are keeping us held to where they're at versus, us getting out of our own way to go into where we're supposed to be. Like we fall out of alignment with our old version of ourselves as we continue to grow. Mm-hmm. And so that is what it truly means for me as far as like, no one can stop me but me, because I'm always the one that's the driver behind where I'm going. It's just whether or not I'm going to listen to myself and get out of my own way,
that's a huge deal for a lot of people is that aspect. What I'm finding fascinating is that it seems like, as you just described 2023 for yourself, it seems like that's the same thing that's happening for a lot of people. They're finding that, I won't go into much detail, but I'll make it personal for myself. My 2023 has been all about that. And people around me keep telling me, Richard, make sure no matter what else you do, make sure you take care of you. Take care of you. Because what good are you to the radio station or to your wife or to anybody else if you don't take care of you?
Right.
And I'm curious as to what are some of the steps that you talk about in your book, which, folks, by the way, is entitled "No One Can Stop Me But Me." And we're gonna find out more about that as we continue. But are there some specific steps that one can take? I would venture, obviously, as many would say, that the first step, of course, is recognizing
Yeah.
situation. That would be the first step in that regard. So where do we go from there? Because I'm dying here.
Yeah. We're recognizing, becoming conscious. And like you said, the world is really becoming conscious right now. And a lot of people are at this pivotal point where their consciousness is increasing. But the first step for me was removing my limiting beliefs, right? What do I limit myself to? We all have them. Also self-talk, the way you talk to yourself, the things that come out of your mouth. And where do you want to go? Not where are you living now, but where do you want to go? Like seeing that vision and really, knowing where it is you want to be. Because the biggest problem I think a lot of us do is we get stuck in where we're at. So just 6 years ago, I was literally living payday loan to payday loan to keep the lights on as a single mother of 4. And so I was stuck in that for a minute until the day I said no more. And I pretended like I was okay, even though I didn't know how things were going to work. And I just continued to smile and pretend my situation was not what it was. And checks would show up in the mail. Mm-hmm. Things would happen. I would get new business. And so it's really about not being stuck where you are currently, but knowing where you're going and really investing in yourself. You have to do the work on you. You are the most important thing to do. It's not going out to dinner. It's not buying yourself a bag. It's not anything like that, but people won't invest money into themselves. And I'm like, I have no problem doing that because I know there's no chance I'll lose if I just invest in me.
Yeah. I'm connected. Matter of fact, one of my advertisers here on this program, he's an insurance agent, has his own company down in Los Angeles. And we have had some chats about insurance and so forth, which when I was in my 20s, I said, no way. What the heck? If I buy life insurance, basically what I'm saying is I'm betting against myself. And of course, the reality is actually I'm not. I am preparing. Now, whether this is the insurance company's line or not, I don't know, but I'm preparing to make sure that when I depart, those left behind don't have to worry about the financial aspects of taking care of my, shall we say, remains. this body that I currently inhabit. So I finally got to that point where I said, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I'll tell you, with car insurance, or in our case, renter's insurance, it paid off because we've had a number of situations with the car. We've had one situation where we were evacuated from a wildfire, and it came in handy. I was glad I had it. Boy, howdy. So when you talk about investing in oneself, I'm not, I know you're not saying go out and get some insurance. No. But let's talk a little bit about that. How does one invest? What are some of the things, I mean, you alluded to them, that we can do as we move forward to do that very thing? Invest in self. And it may not even cost money.
Yeah, no, it sometimes is just like taking care of oneself and like grooming yourself or getting a massage, exercising daily, hiring a coach. It depends what you want and, where you want to be. And also, being able to forgive all of the things that have happened to us in life and not ever hold anything against anyone. Because you become, what people don't realize is we become the prisoner in that aspect. And so you're not forgiving them for them. You're forgiving them for you, because you holding on to whatever your problem with them was is really just a prison that we don't want to stay in. So it depends, it could just be that writing a letter and forgiving those who have wronged you. You don't even have to physically say it to them. So you can invest in yourself just by doing that one act. It's like taking a brick full of a backpack full of bricks and dumping it on the ground. Mm-hmm. You need to do those things for oneself.
Yeah. You're Chicago born and raised, right?
Yes.
And you grew up as a kid, you grew up with your brother, as I have been reading, in a place where a lot of kids, when I was growing up, this was, I don't know, this was more the stereotypical dream to run off and join the circus. You were a part of a carnival of sorts or circus because your parents at that time, they were, am I correct? Did I read it right? Balloon vendors?
Yeah, so we sold like the head bobbers and the helium balloons and all of the little things at the carnival.
And that is sort of the beginning of your story because, as I suppose, as much fun as you were having, at some point, the fun got let out of that balloon, didn't it?
It sure did.
Can you share with us that story? Because that's part of what has made you who you are today.
Yeah, so we came home from one of those great carnival days, and our parents let us know that they were no longer going to be together. And so I was 4, like I had no idea, at the time what that was, but that was just, it was a very pivotal point in my life that they carried with me for a very long time. Constantly wishing that they would get back together, not really understanding, any of the things. And then, of course, it even rolled over into my adult life because when I had children, I was going to fight for that relationship, whether I should have been or not, because I didn't want a broken home. So it was a very, very pivotal thing that I literally carried with me my entire life until I was
Wow.
able to understand that, clearly there's reasons why people separate and things like that. And sometimes it is best. So, yeah.
How has that uh, formed your relationships or relationship? You say you have a son, you have a child. I know son or daughter. You have a child, at least one. Is
At 4.
the You have 4? I beg your pardon, 4. Now you have a significant other, a partner, if you will, with these 4.
We are not together any longer, but we were married at one point. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So how has that childhood memory, or maybe I should re-ask that question. How did that childhood memory, and I guess we could call it a trauma, how did that affect your decisions in relationships when you got older and started having relationships?
Well, like I said, in that particular relationship, I was willing to sacrifice my beliefs, who I was as a person,
Mm.
anything, because I felt like it was what was best for my kids to have that family unit. And so I was willing to completely forego Jennifer Hernandez, like forget about her. I'm just going to do what I feel is best for everybody else. And so that's why, it goes really back to saying like, that's what we do. And we don't realize that we're doing that from beliefs of our trauma, because it was really just my trauma that
Mm-hmm.
was keeping me held there and not allowing to be the trauma that I actually, was inflicted with. So I was so scarred by it that I was just willing to forget who I was and who I wanted to be in life, and just said, I'm just going to do what's right for my kids because I felt like it was right. And it wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't right. And I know that now, but, we get stuck in these patterns. And, another thing that I figured out a couple of years ago is that we look for our parents in our partners and the trauma
Mm.
that they may have caused us. It may not be like, it may not be a jump in your face like, oh my gosh, that's my dad. It could be something small, right? Like he's very punctual or he
Mm-hmm.
wants the house very tidy. There's little things, if I look back to every relationship that I had with a man, is that he was very similar to my father and always left me feeling the way that my father made me feel.
Mm.
And so much so until I had to end up in a relationship with a man who was like, couldn't have been closer to the way my dad was in order for me to get it, because I I was never a victim of anything. So I don't blame people for anything that they've done wrong. I don't hold things against them. So it was, and my mom had left when I was 11. So my father was my sole guardian. So I could never see the damage that he had inflicted in me, because the problem with emotional trauma is we don't know what it is. We know if we're getting physically abused, we know about verbal abuse, those are physical things that we see and we can see them coming. The emotional stuff is so buried deep within us that we don't even realize it until we don't have a choice, or we keep calling in the same entire thing because we haven't learned the lesson or healed the trauma.
As I read through some of the things that you've experienced, especially in your teen years, the thought came to mind: you and Danny Trejo have almost similar lives, in that you were into sex and drugs and gangs and fights and school dropouts and pregnancies, and as well as stints in psych wards or psych hospitals. And Danny Trejo, I don't know if you know who he is, actor and so forth. He's played usually bad guys in some of the movies that he's been in. And I've had the privilege of being a part of an interview that we had with him, and he's just the sweetest guy you'd ever want to meet. And he came through all of that, including prison. You went to psych hospitals, he went to prison. There's the big difference. And yet, God, here you are. And one of the things that I've often said on this program, because we talk about choices, okay, and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Well, there's one aspect of that a lot of people, they don't quite grasp. The choices that we have been making, and this goes all the way back to childhood, have brought us to where you and I specifically are right now. Mm-hmm. But back then we had no way of knowing what the path was going to be.
No.
So how do we start to consciously make choices that will place us where if we can only imagine, close your eyes, go into that quiet, peaceful, calm place, that inner place, listen to the still small voice, and imagine where you would really like to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years. I'm 63. I want to be around for a minimum of 37 more years. I want to make it. I want to go beyond my 100th birthday, but exactly what I would be doing at that point, I haven't really thought too much about, but I think I'm going to have to take my own advice. So let's talk a little bit about that in terms of your life coaching work, the work that you do as a life coach, and talk about that process, because I would venture that even as a teenager, yet alone a young adult, you had no idea that you would be a number one top, I don't want to say top selling, but at the top of your game in the Chicago real estate market, or mortgage market, if you will.
Right.
Among other things, of being a life coach.
Yeah. Or inspiring people through my story, and really being able to impact them by sharing my experiences. And the beautiful part about it is that it was very tough to get through, but if one thing would have changed or been different, I wouldn't be able to make this impact. So it's funny though, if I think back to my childhood, I wanted to be a counselor, and I wanted to help others, right? Well, through storytelling and through like motion picture or whatever I end up doing in the future, I am impacting people, and you can impact the world through film, and help people heal that way. So I think it's very interesting, that I did go through as much as I have been through, and I'm going to be able to share this story with the world and hopefully impact many, many people along the way.
No one can stop me but me. Chronicles the, I beg your pardon? No one can stop me but me, which chronicles the complete transformation of her life. That's a to me a critical word, a pivotal word, I should say. And I was told by one of my guests, because I was using the word how to change your life. They said, you want to shift that to maybe transform, because if you can change back. It's like, and we don't want to go back. We don't want to go back.
Yeah, I don't think we could. This is what I tell people sometimes. Like when you're in the back of the room, you cannot unhear what you are hearing in that room. You can try to, but the suffering will become worse.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not listen to what is being said, and if you're in a room and people are making an impact and doing things, and there's things that they're being said that are going straight through you to the core of what you're probably dealing with, you cannot unhear those things. And so we cannot, undo all the work that we've done. There's no physical way. I don't think the suffering would be too immense.
I couldn't agree with you more. We encourage you to go to her website, and I'll give you that website right now. It happens to be iamjenhernandez.com. That's IamJenNandez.com. We will be linked to that website so folks can find out more about the work that you are doing and get in touch with you as well. No one can stop me but me. It is, as I said before, it is the real life rags to riches story that shows anything is possible if we just believe in ourselves. It has also been said, Jennifer, that if we don't believe in ourselves, why should we expect anybody else to? Your thoughts on that?
100%. So, and that just kind of goes back to like the same thing I said in regards to love, right? We want love from another person, but yet we haven't mastered how to give it to our own self. How can you call into your life what you desire if you are not even willing to give it to yourself? If you're not willing to silence the negative voice in your head that tells you that you can't, to silence the people around you who may be trying to keep you at their levels. If you're not able to rise above and say, no, this circle is not for me, that voice doesn't matter. She's always going to be there. You need to block her and know that you can, and you're the one that can master anything that you want in life and bring anything you want into it. So it's a tough thing. It's a lot easier said than done. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, but you are in control of it, and you are the only one who can do it.
Someone said to me the other day, I didn't challenge them on this because the conversation we were having would not have allowed for me to put it in that context, but it's been said to me on other occasions, Richard, you make me feel, and then they'll go off and tell me what they're feeling. And yeah. And so I sit there going, wow, do I have power over your life? I have power and control over you, and you gave it to me. There's also a wonderful scene in the Big Bang Theory where Will Wheaton, he's Sheldon's arch enemy or nemesis, if you will. And Will Wheaton comes over to him and he says, you know what, Sheldon? It's really cool to be able to live rent-free right up there in his own head. Will Wheaton is living rent-free in Sheldon's head. Same thing, same concept. And it's like we give up our power and then we play the victim. And that seems to have permeated our society in the last 8 to 10 years. I mean, I went through the victimhood process back in the 80s, and I was going through personal growth programs. Talk to us about not only the dangers of this victimhood mentality that seems to come back every so often. It's their fault that we're the way we are.
Yeah.
And how you are helping people to move through that to taking responsibility. Ooh, dirty word, for their lives.
Well, and so that was so beautifully said, because what a lot of people don't understand is that when somebody is saying those things to you, they are literally projecting their own issues onto you. when the truth is that all they need to do is go in the mirror and really start to deal with their own issues. But because that is so hard to do, all they want to do is, say, well, you did, or and I just like, the higher your consciousness becomes, you just sit there and you're like, gosh, I remember being like you, and I'm very sorry that you're there, but it's time that, you do your work, because like you said, we don't have control on anyone else. And we're in control of it.
We barely have control over our own lives,
Right. Right.
I often, because this comes up quite often, that aspect. There's a line in a song, and I think it's going back to the late 60s or 70s. I'll be damned if I'm going to run his life. I'm having enough trouble running my own. And I wish I could remember the name of the song. I'm hearing it in my head right now. Unfortunately, I can't turn up the volume, and so everyone else can hear it. But that is absolutely true. And of course, I get accused on occasion of controlling other people. It's like, you're just trying to control me, and da 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 da. And I'm really, no. My effort is in trying to help you to stay safe. Okay, like, let's say you're in a relationship, and the other person says, "You're just trying to control me." Okay, now there are people who do try to control other people. I got enough, I got enough going on in my own life. I don't have time to control you. And please don't give me that power. I don't want it. Mm-hmm. How do we, what are some of the steps that you have developed and share with people to help them to take back their power?
Yeah, I try to share it, because the thing about all of this work is we don't know what someone else's triggers are, right? Mm-hmm. But we know when they go to 0 to 100, that's their trauma. A trigger is your trauma, and people don't know this. And so I try to put it all back on me. Well, I just want you to know, and I kind of, that, I used to do this type of behavior when I was not trying to look at my own problems. And what I realized is that if you're talking about other people, it's because you don't want to deal with your own life. And there's some you have some type of trauma you're not wanting to deal with. You're not wanting to evolve to the next level. So you are just, you're talking about other people, because people who are successful and, are doing things in life, we're not talking about other people. We're uplifting, inspiring, encouraging, motivating. We're not bashing you and sitting here and just, going through these things. But there was a time when I did, and it was because I didn't know that I was just trying to not look at my own problems, So I try to flip it back on me and say to help people move forward out of that. But then the thing is too, and I have just recently been in this situation to where I have a very good, friendship that has turned, but I noticed some things here and there that remind me of my old self, and because I was once that person, I tended to forget about those things that was happening that were actually my red flags, because I have so much compassion because I was once you. So I can understand where you're at. But the problem is that the new version of me needs to have friendships that are where I'm at, not where I used to be. And so you need to move quickly away from those friendships if you're desperately trying to get to a different level, because we're making excuses for those people because we understood and we were once them. But the truth is that you've done your work. Now your circle needs to be people who have done their work too, so that you can thrive, because otherwise we do this people pleasing thing where we're end up giving so much more in these relationships than ever is being given back to us. And they're just, and it's not a cohesive relationship or thing that you're going to ever thrive in.
We are talking with Jennifer Hernandez, and we're talking about her incredible, well, I suppose you could call it a memoir of sorts, her life story. No One Can Stop Me But Me, one woman's remarkable journey from childhood trauma and reckless adolescence to a life of recovery, abundance, and joy. And as of our conversation, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to let you know that it will be available January 16th, 2024. That is the date I have here. Basically, she's encountered horrors typically found in fiction. Considering where we are in this conversation on the date we're talking here, we just finished going through Halloween. Aha! I can only imagine that you would have a costume that would basically be you. That would be your Halloween costume.
I was Wonder Woman a couple years ago because that's how I feel.
Well, we certainly hope that you folks will pick up a copy. You can go to Amazon and get a copy there. I just went there and I saw it there. Is this a book that you think will be made available via Audible?
Yes, ebook and Audible will be available as well, and it is on pre-sale right now as we speak.
Excellent. I will look forward to listening. Do you know whether you will record it or will they have a narrator?
I'm going to try to do it. I think it would be best in my own voice. So yes, I haven't done it as of yet, but that is next on my list.
Well, of course, folks, Jennifer was able to discover her own, she actually, I should rephrase this. She actually discovered her home was unlocked and vandalized with a terrifying word, die, painted in blood red on her bedroom wall. This marked the beginning of her tumultuous journey through parental adolescence, substance abuse, her unsustainable living conditions, as well as teenage pregnancy, as well as a search for belonging with an inner city gang. You know, that's what's interesting. I remember interviewing my father and mother, as I mentioned earlier, and my dad said he was a member of a gang. Now, my dad was born in 1931, I should say. And in high school, I think grade school and or high school, said he was in a gang. A bunch of guys that just got together. And do you know the name of the gang? Was called the Happy Gang. So I followed up with the question, well, why were you called the Happy Gang? He says, because we were always happy. I guess that's where I get it from. You know?
Well, that sounds like a much better gang than the ones that I hung out with. But,
yeah. And I didn't grow up. I mean, I grew up in the inner city of Phoenix, Arizona, but we lived on a street. At one end, it was a T section. So when a car came around the corner, and we were playing in the street in the middle of the block. So when a car came around the corner at either end, actually, okay, car coming. Everybody gets out of the street. They get out of the way, let the car go by, and then we get back in the street and continue playing. We had the run of the neighborhood. It was fantastic, and I guess you could call us a gang, but we were all neighbors. We were all friends. We weren't being destructive. Although I had a friend who wanted to play pranks in the neighborhood, and I was a paper boy at the time, and you'd get these big bags of rubber bands, you'd rubber band the paper, and we would make a rubber band chain, and we would tie garbage can lids to each other and stretch them across a street and wait for a car to come by. The things I did as an adolescent, I tell you, that was probably the most destructive. Tell me about your life today. Obviously, great success in the mortgage industry. Why did you choose that particular industry? And how do you connect it to your life coaching in that respect? Do you use examples of some things that have happened within the industry with you in working your way up the ladder, so to speak, to being number one and so forth, to helping people to find that, hey, there's more to life than, what you're doing now, which is, kind of destructive.
Yeah. So I didn't initially know when I got in the industry why it felt like second nature to me, because it was almost like for me, it was definitely for me. And the reason why is because I want to help others. Mm-hmm. And so in the mortgage industry, I'm helping them fix their credit, get in homes, and I specialize in low to moderate income lending. So creditly challenged people, I have gone through so much of that in my own life. That's the only reason why I know how to advise these type of things. It's also why I'm able to craft solutions for clients who typically would be denied at other lenders. And it's because I have struggled a lot throughout my life. The other part of it is that the more I do and the larger impact I make in the mortgage industry, the more funds I have to create change in the neighborhoods I work in. One of my passion projects is to hopefully eventually pull together the different nonprofits and create an ecosystem like the gangs have on the streets of Chicago, so that people can plug into those instead, because there's reasons why we plug into the streets. It's not because we want to, it's because we're lacking something and we're looking for it, and that the streets provides it. So if there was an ecosystem out there who actually, worked together, maybe people would have a choice of where they plug. So I have directly aligned, what I do in the industry to creating the change and making change in the neighborhood. So the more I do, the more impact I can make.
What's your perception of the general attitude in this country right now, just in general, nothing specific, not, religious or political or economic, but just in general? Do you think that maybe, I don't know if you want to say the majority per se, are buying into this victimhood mentality, or are we beginning as a society to realize that that's really not getting us anywhere? And they're starting to understand that, we've got to do something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I actually think it's both. Like, I think there's a lot of people who are broken and who are looking for something. Like, they know they don't want to be stuck like this any longer. And so because of like YouTube and social medias, and we're able to be impacted by mentors. Even if you don't have the financial means to hire one, you can literally seek out one, read their book, watch their things on YouTube, and you are being mentored by them. So and I do feel like the world is evolving, and what it is too is, even if the parents haven't bought into creating the change yet, our children are requiring a higher level of consciousness from us. And if we do not, take care of our own issues and start to heal that, they will move away from you because they want it. Our children are, desiring that highest level of consciousness. So, and I think it's going to help a lot of the parents start to do their work, because it's beautiful, because I work with a psychologist and a psychotherapist, and she's like, I can't work with children anymore, because the thing is that you can't heal the child's trauma when it's coming from the parents, and the parents don't even know they're doing it. Because we know not what we do, and some of the things that my parents had done onto me, I did onto my children, because I became a mom at 20 and I know not what I do. So that is what I believe.
Being bullied in school myself, and when I was in my late 20s, I was having a conversation with my parents, and they said to me, I was shocked at what they said. They said, I wish we could have protected you better. And the first thought that shot through my mind was, what? By following me around at school, making sure nobody bugged me? That would have made it better. It would have not, of course. And I thought, wow, that's really something. But see, I recognize that my parents did the best they could with what they had at the time. I don't blame them for anything. I'm grateful that they, first of all, brought me into this world. Have you gotten to that point where, hey, I did the best I could with what I had at the time?
Yeah, I never blamed them for anything either, I never blamed them for anything, but I think what it is that we don't know some of the ways that we were raised were probably not correct initially, like when I was 20 as a mom, like my dad is 100% Italian. So we swore at each other all the time. It's like, that was like the normal way of conversation. Like, that's not really appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to learn that. Like, I had to learn that, because I communicated the way I was communicated to. Now, I don't blame him for that or anything. Like I know that they did the best that they can do. And that's what I try to, I try to tell my children, like, okay, like, please forgive me. I made some mistakes in the beginning years when I didn't know not what I do, but I am, you're going to have to forgive me for those things. And we're going to move forward because I'm doing better,
Yeah.
But I don't hold anything. But I do think that these children nowadays kind of hold on to things a lot more than we did. We came from a different generation where like you don't talk back to your elders, you don't do this. And these kids nowadays are very different. They didn't get whoopings and things like that. Like they do what they want. And, you know, they get a lot off of social media and they really want us to be better. So,
Yeah. You think that the kids that are coming into this world today, they are coming into this world, they're a little different because of that? I mean, that they seem to have that awareness that, look, I want more than, maybe what your parents gave you, in terms of upbringing, in terms of the love, in terms of the understanding, the compassion, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, I feel like they do. And if you're not willing to do it, they're okay saying like, I'm going to have nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And we it doesn't matter like how bad we were beaten, emotionally, verbally abused, like we wouldn't, we're like, we were brought here from you, like we won't do that. And these kids, like, they don't care. And so this goes back to my point too of saying, like, as a mom and even as a dad, like we tend to sacrifice ourselves, who we are as people, because we believe we brought children into the world and it's supposed to all be about them.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that if you do that for like 20 plus years and your children are like, well, you're not good enough for me, and like go away, like, are you going to be okay with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that happens. It's happening a lot.
One of the things I'm noticing, and it's primarily in the media, and I verbalize this more to myself than anybody else when I hear it, is the name calling, especially. One group of people, with this talking head, as part of that group of people, he refers to the other group of people that he doesn't cotton to, he doesn't like much. They're idiots, they're morons, they're this, they're that, they're the other, and it's almost as like, we should kill them all. Matter of fact, there was a survey not long ago where Republicans and Democrats were asked, what do you think would solve a lot of our problems in this country? And they believe that getting rid of the other party would solve a lot of the problems in this country. But my point is, when there's this name calling going on, I sit there and, as I said before, I sometimes say it out loud, yelling at a speaker. How is that helping? How is that solving the problem? Now, you said that, your father being Italian, and of course, and you swore at one another because that's just what you did. And to that, I'd say, so how is that helping the dynamics in the relationship of the family, or between a spouse, the two spouses, or between siblings, or what have you, or even at work for that matter? How is that helping to resolve and come to some kind of meaningful resolution? It's not.
No, it's not. And just like what you said, like this is a huge thing that needs to be talked about. I mean, religion, politics, race, all it is doing is dividing.
Yeah.
Love is what unifies us. We all need to have more and give more love and stop dividing us. And it's really why I haven't, it's, now that my kids are older, they're like, why didn't you, when we grew up, why didn't you, have a political view? Or because to me, it's a gang. It's not, it's in, and I don't even know what side I would tell you, because to me, it's just, I'm just not. Let's love, let's unify, let's come together. This is all division. This is doing nothing but causing hate, war, like division, And you can't say you want unity, but you're only, you're sacrificing only one race can come to this event, or I'm only promoting this, or I'm only working with this type of people. That is discrimination. You are dividing. If you're not unifying, you're dividing, and it's time to stop. It's about love. If you look at anybody like Martin Luther King, anyone who talked about peace, it's to be unified and come together. And all of these things are just dividing us even further.
You said something very significant there in that, and what came to mind was, and it's just one of many stories of business people who refuse to do business with individuals of whatever the difference is because of their beliefs. And you have every right to your belief. But in particular, I think about, for example, the cake maker who refused to make a cake for a gay couple because of their beliefs. And the first thing that went through my mind was, wait a minute. Wouldn't it be a better representation of your beliefs to serve them, and in the process, maybe you could minister to them, you could talk to them and so forth. Don't judge them, but share what it is that you believe, because what you've done here by saying, no, I'm not gonna, no, I have nothing to do with you, you've put up a wall. You've separated yourself from them, and you've alienated yourself from them. You haven't alienated them from you. You've alienated yourself. We do that all the time when we pass judgment, don't we? We
do. And there's so many people who will sit up in church and say they're practicing their religion, but yet I was raised Catholic, and I was told that, at Easter, that I was never going to do or have anything in life from family members. Mm-hmm. So, why don't you practice what you preach? Yeah. So.
And here's an interesting twist on John 3:16. For God so loved the world. Well, what is the world made up of? Well, some pretty nice, kind-hearted people and some pretty nasty, awful, despicable people, and everyone in between. And God loves all of these people? Because when you say, and God so loved the world, he's not talking about the planet. He's talking about the inhabitants, us, who were created by God. So, and there's a line, Jesus says, be perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. And it has nothing to do with good, bad, right, wrong, left, right. It has to do with just being who you are. Would you say, though, that there are a lot of people who don't even know who they are yet?
100%. 100%. Yeah. And that's why they live with an angst and anxiety and depression and bipolar and, all of these things, because when you live in a state of dis-ease, it causes disease in many, many ways. So, just walking around and really not, and that's the thing. A lot of times people are there because of their trauma. My oldest is my stepson that I have raised since he was 4. He lived with me, and he still works for me now. And, he's going through this process of healing some of the things that his parents have caused him over the years. And it's just so beautiful to watch. But he said, I feel like I don't know. He was this running around as this lost little boy and needs his parents to come save him. And he's, just going through this. And it's so beautiful to see him evolving and, really wanting to heal from all of it. But we have to do our work. So
Jennifer Hernandez, my guest here on Tell Me Your Story. We're talking about her story today. And by sharing her story, Jennifer hopes to empower those facing similar hardships to take control of the narrative and change their lives for the better, especially during these times of stress and uncertainty in the world. And I have to say, there's one word in all of that I really have a problem with because of the way it is being used these days in particular, but I like the way you're using it. And that's the word narrative. It's like, take control of of the story. Same difference. It's semantics, but it's like when I hear that word coming from people who want to go back to live in the way that it was in the 50s. Supposedly it was better back in the 50s. For some it was, for others it was not. We have to move forward. And with the work that you are doing, Jennifer, I really honestly believe that we are going to do just that. We're going to move forward, especially, folks, if you pick up a copy of No One Can Stop Me But Me. We want you to get a copy of that. You can pre-order on Amazon. You can go through Jennifer Hernandez website, and it is iamjenhernandez.com. We will be linked to that website, and we hope that you will avail yourselves of that. And of course, by the time it is released, I also hope to be able to acquire an Audible copy of that and listen to Jennifer reading her own story. It'll certainly come across with a whole lot more intent, if you will, than if a narrator were to do it. Not to take anything away from the narrator, because I'm a narrator of books myself. So there you go. Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for being a part of Tell Me Your Story and sharing your story. As rough as it was, would you say it was worth it?
Absolutely.
And
I couldn't change one thing, because if I change one thing, it's not the same. It won't have the impact. So I'm grateful for all of it, the good, the bad, still the good, the bad that's to come. There are levels to this, people. Just know when everything is coming at you, you're about to go to a different level you have not been to yet. So grateful, and you have to be grateful for all of it, because you're learning and evolving.
Right. Well, folks, we encourage you to go to her website, and we also encourage you to tune in to this program regularly. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m. and 9 a.m. on Wednesdays. That's our special edition of Tell Me Your Story. We stream live at those times at richarddugan.com. We are podcasting on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many other locations. We have a YouTube channel as well, and you can listen and watch these conversations as they unfold and find out more. And vicariously, you're a part of that conversation. So we certainly hope that you will avail yourselves of that. We also ask that if you can support the work we are doing financially, we would be so gratefully appreciative. We have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. When they ask for an email address, put in mine, richard@richarddugan.com. That's richard@richarddugan.com. We also ask during the decade of perfect vision, that you spend some quiet time going within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still small voice for some additional inspiration and encouragement, maybe a little advice, some information on how you, through that divine voice, can start to make the changes that you need to and want to make. So we ask that you do that, and we encourage you to tune in to this program. Find out more about Jennifer at iamjenhernandez.com. With all that said, I have three final questions that I ask all of my guests, Jennifer. And the first of those three to you is, who is Jennifer Hernandez?
She is a single mother of four, an incredible woman who wants to impact the world, help people in low to moderate income areas get lending, and really, really be able to impact you by sharing my story, eventually turning into a motion picture so I can impact the world. And thank you so much for having me. But I know you have two more questions for me.
I do. The next one is, what is your life's purpose?
My life purpose is to impact the world through film, also creating an alternative to the streets that I touched on earlier, really bringing together the different nonprofits and creating that ecosystem for youth so they have something else to choose besides the streets.
Speaking of films, this next question comes from a rather famous movie. I hope you get the reference. What was your best day?
The best day was when I became a woman. Yeah. Hold on one second. The best day was when they're going to go crazy. Can you give me 1 second on that one?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Sorry, the groomers just got here. All right, I'm going to make this quick because they're going crazy.
No worries.
What did you say? What was the question?
What was your best day?
My best day was when I became a mother. The life I was living at that time was going to end me up dead or in jail. I named my first daughter Destiny because she was truly that for me. And she really helped me become who I am today. My children.
Well, Jennifer, your destiny thus far is pretty spectacular. It's not to say that individuals have to go through what you went through to achieve and become what you have become, the best in your area of expertise. But at the same time, it also says to those who are going through those kinds of things, it doesn't have to end that way. You can you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but there are people there to help you, and Jennifer is one of them. So go to iamjenhernandez.com. We'll be linked, as I said before. And Jennifer, thank you again for joining us here on Tell Me Your Story.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to law. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.